Hello and welcome to Personal Record, a podcast that examines why runners run. I'm your host, Timothy Clark. Today we are joined by a very special guest. She is the fastest person we are yet to have on the Personal Record podcast. And she laughs, but it's true. She is. She is a Olympic qualifier participant.
Olympic Trials Qualifier.
Olympic Trials.
Yes.
She qualified for the Olympic Trials.
Yes.
So she ran the Olympic Trials in 2016 in a, I'm sorry, what was your 238? Was that the Olympic Trials or was that the
No,
qualification
actually,
for it?
I qualified in Chicago in 2014, and that was a 2:45. And then, ran the trials in 2016. I actually do not know what my time is in that race. It went very well. Meltdown. It was like 80 degrees in LA in February. But and then 238 in Berlin this past September, which qualified me for 2020 Olympic Trials.
We have pretty much all of your PRs of the last 3 or 4 years. But we don't know your name yet. So this is Caitlin Phillips. Caitlin Phillips is our guest today.
Hello.
Again, our friend Allison Goldstein from episode 2. I asked Allison, I said, I need some people. I need some recommendations for people to interview over the coming weeks. Who do you got? And she said, Caitlin Phillips. You're the first person she recommended. And I did some research and I came upon a website that I didn't know existed before called the ARRS, the Association of Road Racing. Have you ever heard of this?
No idea.
It has all of your PRs on there.
Does it really?
I'm actually, I'm curious to see if they're accurate. So it has your 5K. I don't even know if you know these numbers, but it has your 5K PR as a 17:20.
It's actually 16:28.
All right, that's strike one for the AARS.
Although if it's a road PR, maybe they have it right. That was a track PR.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Your 10K. So it's the Association of Road Racing. So it probably is that. 10K 35:58.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Maybe.
Your half marathon 1:16:48.
1:16:10 actually.
Strike two. And then it has your marathon time in Berlin, a staggering 2 hours and 38 minutes.
Yes, that one's correct.
That one's solid. All right. The winning time, by the way, for the Berlin Marathon that year was a 2:20.
Yeah.
I looked that up. So you
Very
weren't
fast.
that far behind.
I mean, 18 minutes
18
in a
minutes is
marathon
18 minutes.
is
I
pretty
get it.
considerable.
I get it. But you weren't, I don't think you were that far behind. You were the first American.
I was.
Which is great. I mean, that's an unbelievable achievement. I think a lot of people kind of try that's something that they always kind of point out. You were first American at a major marathon, one of the big 5 marathons. You were the top American.
Thank you. Yeah, that was kind of an exciting thing to find out after the race. I didn't really have any idea, and then someone was like, "Oh, by the way," maybe my dad texted it to me. I can't remember, but I was like,
cool.
"That's pretty cool."
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you were at the time a NYAC runner, is that correct? So the New York Athletic Club?
At Berlin, that was actually my first major race that I ran with my new club, Black Roses NYC, which is another New York-based club.
Tell us about Black Roses. How long have you been with them?
So I left NYAC over the summer and started running with Black Roses. My training partner, Knox Robinson, I met him actually about a year before that when I moved to Bed-Stuy, and we live about a mile apart. So we do a lot of our jogging together, shall we say. Yeah. So
something tells me you don't do that much jogging.
You'd be surprised.
Actually, that's a good thing to talk about. One of the things, so obviously everyone can look at. So first of all, I just want to say, I think if you've never run a marathon, everyone kind of intellectually understands that a marathon is very difficult. But it's actually more difficult, I think, than they realize.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you've run a marathon, I think everyone intellectually understands that a 2:38 marathon is difficult, but I think it's more difficult than people realize.
Right. It's funny. I think like initially my relationship to the marathon was similar to running like the 400 meters when I first started running track, and running a lap around the track was like this, like inexplicable like thing. Like I couldn't wrap my head around like, how do they do a whole lap around the track? Like look at all the older girls, like they're so fast. And then, ended up running cross country and that stuff. But, when I started running the marathon, I was like, oh, I'm just going to like sign up for the New York City Marathon. Like, I used to be a serious runner and now I just want to like finish it and like maybe have a beer halfway through, like just do it for, the sake of being like, oh, I've run a marathon. And then of course I like started training and like got fit again. And then all of a sudden you're like competing with yourself and you're like, oh, maybe I can like break 3 hours or maybe I can run close to 3 hours. And then, I was like part of a team and obviously there were a lot of like very accomplished marathoners and athletes.
I think it's hard not to be inspired.
It's hard not to be inspired and like kind of like see how, like your goals kind of shift.
So when you were on I was at the beginning, I was at the starting line of a Roadrunner race one day and I saw a guy wearing a Nyack t-shirt. I didn't really know what Nyack was all about. And I said to the guy, I was like, how do you, and I knew they were fast and it was a fast team. I was like, how do you get onto Nyack? And he just kind of looked me up and down. He goes, you got to qualify. I was like, all right, dick. But then I thought about it later. I was like, he's right. I mean, they're just the fastest team in New York City. They just are, them and maybe West Side Runners. Those guys, the WSX guys, those guys are great.
Yeah, of course.
But how do my next question about Nyack is there some sort of skull and bones type ceremony to get into Nyack?
Far from it. It's a very sweet group. I loved my time running with them. Super supportive, like on so many levels. But yeah, no skull and bones, initiation.
It's disappointing. I was kind of hoping we were going to get the scoop on Nyack.
Yeah. I mean, it always takes a little bit it always takes a minute to warm up to new people, but, it was an amazing time.
All right. That's great. And you're happy with, I'm sorry, what's the name of the new club?
Black Roses?
Black Roses.
Yeah. So that was a bit of a shift for me, more just like where I am in my life and career and living. I mean, I was living so far away from Nyack. I was like barely using the facilities there, like catching up with, I every once in a while I catch up with my old teammates and run in Central Park, but I was doing so much running with, the people that kind of live nearby. And I thought, why not switch? Try something new. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Sometimes you just need a little change, kind of,
Yeah. And I also, to that point, I think like running is definitely like a big part of my social life now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like Black Roses is like a very sort of like, they're a very close group. They do a lot of, social stuff together, and it's nice to have that kind of like family in like running.
Yeah, running is definitely it's a lifestyle. It's
kind
of
definitely,
sport.
Definitely.
You find yourself hanging out with a lot of other runners.
Absolutely,
especially if you want to get better. You can't. It's not something you can do really alone.
Yeah.
If you're going to get better, especially 238 better, you have to be surrounded by people that can do that. You have to be surrounded by the kind of people that want to get out there and want to become the best that they can be. When you qualified for the Olympic trials, like what is that feeling when you cross the finish line and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to the Olympic trials?
I think in 2014 when I qualified, it was like very overwhelming. I think it was something that I had seen like so many of my Nyack teammates do, but always just like, you're looking at the time, and I can't remember what exactly,
what
what
did you
pace
realize you were going to do it?
I think,
mile one?
no, literally, like I didn't know as I was crossing the line. Like I didn't really know until I was crossing the line. But yeah, I think it was one of those things where I was like looking, I think it's 6:15 or maybe 6:13 a mile.
Okay.
And I was like, at the time, I was like, that just seems so fast. I think my PR before that was a 2:47. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to drop, X number of seconds per mile. Like, it just seems so sort of like overwhelming and so far away. And I had recently started working with a new coach. Terry Shea is amazing. And that he kind of instilled a lot of confidence in me. And I also ended up running a good portion of the race with one of my Nyack teammates, Gina Composti.
Shout out to Gina Composta.
Yeah, exactly. And I had actually stopped in the race around mile 18 because I was cramping really badly. And she ran past me and she was like, "What are you doing? Get it together. We're finishing this race and we're qualifying for the trial."
Did she also qualify?
She also qualified. But yeah, I made it by 15 seconds. Because originally, I don't know if you know this, but like originally the standard for the 2016 trials was 2:43. They ended up changing it. I think maybe like 2 or 3 months before the trials to match the IAAF world standard, which is 2:45. So everybody that had run under 2:45 ended up getting to go to trials. But at the time it was 2:43, made it by 15 seconds, was totally overwhelmed and shocked. And like, I was like, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't make it. I think I had kind of like put it in my head that it was happening. But yeah, at the same time, like you have this like dichotomy of being like, it's impossible, but I have to do it. So
that's again, I say this all the time. It's kind of the people that I want on this podcast are the kind of people that do the impossible, because it kind of shows that it is possible. I think it's really easy to look at someone like you and say she has a lot of talent. That's the reason why she's able to do what she does. But I think people really discredit the amount of work that goes into doing this while maintaining a full-time job, while just trying to maintain just balance in your life. To then run a 2:38 marathon is just way more difficult than I think people realize. Even just to go out, absolutely go out for a drink with friends, maybe, if you even do that. You're showing up, you're exhausted.
Oh, trust, I do a lot of that, probably too much. but yeah. No, I think it is such a like, it's such a weird thing, because now it's like, I've definitely like had a lot of success, but I do feel like, I mean, I've been running since I was 10 years old and was pretty serious about it even as like a young kid. Ran through high school, ran through college, took a couple years off after college, moved to New York, and then was kind of like overwhelmed by life and other stuff. So took a break. And then when I started back, I was just like, oh, let me just like do this marathon and like finish it. Like, and then, I just think like how quickly it got serious and how much time it's been really since I think it was 2010. It was like really, I feel like I didn't really feel like I had the perfect race until Berlin. And I don't even know if I would say Berlin is perfect, but by far, it was the first time I felt like I could actually race a marathon properly. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
as opposed to survive it. So I think like if you look at 8 years, it seems like a very long time.
8 years just in the last stint, plus running since you were 10.
Absolutely.
High school, college. It's really a commitment.
Can
you talk a little bit about sacrifice, like the things that you sacrifice, your daily, in your daily life today? What do you think you give up in order to be able to do these things?
I don't necessarily feel like I sacrifice that much. I feel like, I definitely have mornings where I'm like, the last thing I want to do is get out of bed right now. But I think there's no way I would still be doing this if I didn't love it as much as I do. So I do feel like I am like generally a more tolerable person if I've like gone for a run in the morning.
Right.
But I just like, it's so cheesy to say, but I do like running was like my first love when I started doing it. It was like, it just seemed like symbiotic in a way, if that's the right word. And I don't know, like I definitely go through phases now where I'll take off 2 months of running at a time, or, I run very little for a couple months. I didn't run pretty much all of October and a good portion of November. And I think that's also helped me kind of maintain this like enthusiasm for running, because it's hard. It's not always high highs, you have to have that like ebb and flow. But I feel like I can kind of like fall in love again with running like every time I like start training for a marathon. So yeah, I don't know.
All
if
right.
that answered the question.
No, it did. That was good.
But,
So it's not even really about sacrifice at that point. It's just the way you live your life, and so you sacrifice nothing because you don't want to sacrifice anything. You're doing the thing that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, the Olympic Trials. So can you walk us through what it's like to be at the Olympic Trials? Like, do they pamper the runners there, or are you just kind of on your own?
My experience was interesting. I mean, I feel like a lot of people probably had a shared experience in LA because there were a lot of people that qualified for trials. So it was, in a sense, it was like most other marathons, but also you're like, staying in a hotel, and at any given moment, you're like bumping into Shalane or Kara Goucher or
no big deal.
No big deal.
The
and
shoulders.
then, just it is special in the sense that like it really is this like moment and event that celebrates like the best of American distance running. And I think like, wow, so crazy. Like such a privilege to be there and like be a part of it.
Do you consider yourself, I think I know the answer to the question. I don't think you do, but do you consider yourself part of that stewardship? Like I think you're part of that American running.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
I understand there are the Olympians that are there.
Yeah.
You're not one of those.
Yeah.
You're one of the people there. You're one of the people that certainly people in New York City, those that know you, are looking up to and aspiring toward.
Yeah, that's very kind of you to say.
Does that sink in?
No, yeah, it does. It does. I mean, I think like I definitely feel like an outsider in those scenarios. Like I'm like looking at these people like, oh my God.
So how do you balance your running with a full-time job? So you work at MAC Cosmetics. You're, in the corporate office.
Yes, I'm in the corporate world. Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I think it like I was saying, like it kind of ebbs and flows. Like I was fortunate, like in the lead up to Berlin, I had just started working full time here as director of production, and I kind of had it wasn't, my schedule wasn't really that crazy, but then as soon as October hit, I was traveling pretty much like for 2 months straight. So I kind of was taking it easy with the running, and that was balanced out by working like 80-hour weeks. But yeah, I mean, this year has been much better so far, working more civilized hours. I think, I do, like I get up, if I'm training for a marathon, I'm getting up at 5:30 generally to like go and meet people either in Prospect Park or, meet Knox and to run over to McCarran Track to do a workout. And then a lot of times lately I'll just like put on clothes at work, change into running clothes and run home, or run from the office, come back here, you just kind of fit it in. It's not like, and I think again, it's like, I don't often go out for a run, especially in the evening if I don't want to do it. So it's not, right. Or I'll meet up with friends after work and we'll like run to Williamsburg and grab dinner, grab a beer, something like that.
I remember what I was going to ask before, by the way.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, when I approached Caitlin about potentially doing this interview, she said, do you want to have a phone conversation first just to make sure I'm somebody that you want to talk to? And I was like, I don't need that interview. Like, you're definitely somebody that I want to talk to, which is such an amazing thing I think about you, is that you have this total humility when it comes to your running. Again, you do something that not a lot of people can do. And I get it. There are the 220 marathoners, there are the Shalanes, the Caras of the world, but you're on a level that not a lot of people have reached. And I don't even think I think you realize it intellectually. I just don't think you kind of process that. Again, people look toward you as kind of a like a beacon of their running.
That might be a stretch.
I don't know if it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I really see myself as that person, but I mean, I do recognize that like especially in the last, year and a half, 2 years, I've definitely like had some achievements that probably look good on paper or to other people. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say really.
Right.
But yeah, no, I don't know.
You're
like, do I sound like an asshole?
No,
that I'm
I
like, oh, yeah.
You sound like an asshole. No, you don't.
Sorry, you're gonna have to bleep that out.
That's all right. This is an X-rated podcast. There's plenty of F-bombs that have been dropped in this one.
Oh, okay, good to know.
We like to have fun here. There's a conversation. There are too many podcasts out there that I think take themselves a little bit too seriously. I try to keep it fun. I want to have a conversation. Yes, I want to talk about the deeper stuff, what it is,
absolutely.
Why do we run, what it means to be a runner. But then I also want to talk about what kind of fun we have while running or after running, during running.
Yeah.
Speaking of fun, so the same year you did the Olympic trials, you also won the Midnight Half Marathon.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, for those that don't know, is an unsanctioned race in New York City. I think the course changes every year. You just run in and around the streets of New York.
Yeah.
Slightly illegal.
Slightly illegal. Probably one of the most fun races I've done in my adult life.
Which is again is kind of what I'm talking about. Like you're not, you don't take yourself super serious. You want to go out. Yes, you work really hard, but you want to have a good time also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, like I think for me now, like I'm, running. I'm not a professional runner. I do enjoy it. Obviously, I've had many successes in the last couple of years, but I think it's so much about the bigger picture and being social and connecting with people and having that as another layer of
I think
why I do what I do.
I think a lot of people, myself included, might take it a little bit too seriously at times and not know the balance, not know when, hey, listen, we're not setting records. There's no Olympic gold medals in our futures. Maybe we should kind of scale it back a little bit.
Pump the brakes. No. I mean, I think it's amazing when, you can put so much into something. And I think no matter what level you are, right? There's always an element of I can be better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are plenty of moments when Shalane's comparing herself to
there's
the
always
the Ethiopians and the Kenyans and
sure.
being I don't know.
There's always a faster dog out there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just unfortunate.
But I think
you want to be the top dog sometimes, but
it's nice sometimes. But I think too, I don't know if I've ever been a super competitive I'm super competitive with myself for sure, but I don't know if I've ever had that super gotta be yeah,
which is good.
I don't know, maybe it's good. Maybe it wasn't so good as a collegiate athlete or something like
where'd
that.
You go to college?
I went to University of Kentucky.
Okay. What were your events?
I actually was really into cross country when I was in high school. I mean, I liked track. I ran track, but cross country was my thing. I was just put me in the woods.
Yeah,
I'm good. And
I might get lost. I might not. We'll see.
In Kentucky, I think when I first went there wasn't really a women's team, or there were a couple people, but I don't even think we had enough people to fill out the top 5, I think, score, or top 7, I can't remember. I'm old age. It was a long time ago.
Top 5 score, top 7, you can knock other people out.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it.
I only know this because I interviewed my brother.
Really?
He was on this podcast.
Oh, so funny.
He was a cross country guy, and so we kind of went into
right.
I also went into, in that podcast, and I'll bring it up again here, just that collegiate runners are, I think, some of the hardest working people in the world, because you're doing 3 varsity sports, which are not easy to do. It's a tough sport just in and of its nature.
Yeah, maintaining
grades, you have all these pressures on you.
Yeah,
you may or may not be on your own for the first time. There's a lot of pressure there, and these kids come out and they do extraordinarily well. Most of them.
I think the tough thing, or that something that maybe people don't realize, is that when you're a college distance runner, you basically go to school at the beginning of August, run cross country for a few months, have a couple weeks off, start running indoor track, which goes straight into outdoor track, which often extends far beyond the school year if you're qualifying for like regionals or nationals or anything like that, or like God forbid, like make a U.S. team or something like that, and you like you
like it's a punishment.
No, I don't mean it like
in some
that,
ways
but
it
like,
is, you know. It is.
That
means you're not getting off that summer.
Yeah, no, yeah.
In New York City, since I've become a runner, the number of Ivy League people I've met
who were cross country runners
that were track runners that now run on some level. Some better than others, but I've always think there's been a connection between, you know, intelligence and running. I find that at least in my high school, my college, all the track guys were the guys that were getting the I don't even know the names of the awards, but the awards that were like the top student athlete,
right?
You know, the best grades,
right.
On these 3 different sports. So I think there's definitely been there's a cerebral connection to runners.
Yeah, and I think it can be cerebral because it's like, you know, it's a lot of time on your own, so even when you're training with other people. Yeah. And then there's also just like a lot of like type A personalities as well.
There's a few of those.
Myself included.
Join the club. I don't think you become competitive endurance athlete without having at least some morsel of type A hidden somewhere beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
So are you in like a non-running kind of stint right now? You're taking time off?
No.
That's right. Yeah, you said you.
No, I actually have had like my highest month of mileage ever, which
triple digits
is like super not quite triple digits, but I think I averaged 95 miles a week in January.
How many days a week are you doing 2 days?
Ooh, sometimes like 2 and sometimes like it depends. I mean, I was in Mexico at the beginning of the year. There was really nothing else to do but run. So I was pretty much doing 2 days every day, ran like 104 miles that week, I think. But generally speaking, like if I'm running like 80 miles a week, I might do that in all singles. If I'm running like 90, there's usually like 1 or 2 doubles. This week might hit 100, but I've run like, 4 doubles.
When you do an easy run, how easy are we talking?
I generally say like it's usually around 8-minute pace. It really depends. Like the higher the mileage, the slower average, I would say the pace of my runs is. Okay. If I'm only running like 60 miles a week, generally I can like, you can run like, or I can run maybe like 7:15 pace pretty casually, but I haven't done that in a minute. I save the fast days for like the bi-weekly workouts. So
do you subscribe to the idea that you have to run slow in order to run fast?
I do subscribe to that. Actually, I think like rest and easy running is really important. But again, it all depends on like how many miles you're running and what your workouts are like. Like I generally do like 2 to 3 high intensity days. And
define a high intensity day.
So on a Tuesday, let's say Tuesday is my typical workout day. I might do something like a hill workout or a track workout, depending on if I'm running like a flat marathon or a hilly marathon like Boston, which I'll run in April.
I will also be running Boston.
Oh, amazing.
I will be at the starting line of Boston.
Amazing. That's so exciting.
My training leading up to that has not been great, but
well, you have a long time.
Yeah.
It's early. It's early.
It's already February.
Yeah, so I think it varies, but like a workout might be like 3x3 miles on the track, or like 8 uphill or downhill mile repeats, depending on the race.
Okay. So you're saying so the more miles you do, the slower your average pace, but you'll throw in a couple fast days or fast miles.
Definitely more focus on the fast days, and my mileage won't stay this high like for the whole like build up. Right. It'll be probably more in the 80s.
Your build up to Boston, what will be your lowest mileage?
Oh, well, I mean, including a taper or
not including taper.
Not including a taper. Probably stays like high 70s.
All right. Yeah. All right. I guess I better start running. I think I've been doing like 15 the last few weeks. It's been
okay. We can throw a couple more miles onto your routine.
So now what do you recommend to somebody just getting into the sport?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I feel like New York, like there's been this like crazy like running boom the last few years. So I have so many friends that are like just getting into it, and they're always like, "Give me advice." And on one hand, I feel like super removed, and I'm like, I don't even know. Like, do you? I mean, it kind of depends on what your like.
It's so specific.
What your like general fitness is,
Yeah,
I guess I would say, and what your background is. I mean, for somebody that maybe ran high school cross country and then like hasn't run in 10 years, I would say they might have an easier time getting back into it. But generally, I would say like people will always be like, oh my God, I can't even run a mile. And I'm like, everyone can run a mile. The thing is that you have to have patience. It's the same thing with like running a marathon. It's like, it takes so long. It takes so long to like build a routine. And I think the best piece of advice I can give to anyone, which is super vague and maybe not that helpful, but it's literally to get into a routine where it's like you just make a plan to go out every morning before work or every evening after work. Or not even every evening, but like make a plan where it's like, I'm going to run 4 days this week and try to like slowly increase that plan, right? Slowly increase the number of minutes that you're running, you know, and it takes a really long time, you know, just like
if running is not for the faint of heart, you know, it's not an easy sport.
No,
it's hard to get into. It's hard to get that routine, like you said. But once you do, I think it's completely worth it.
Absolutely.
I think running is a sport that you can do semi-casually.
Yes.
That I think is the only sport you can do while maintaining a job that I think it can change who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. It can really change your like lifestyle.
Yeah, with the way you look at life.
Yeah.
How you consider things.
Yeah.
How you look at things, just your perspective on what you start to think is difficult, what you think is not so difficult.
Right, exactly.
For me, at least.
And like I think just having like a daily goal and a weekly goal is really important.
Do you look beyond the weekly goal?
Yeah, of course. I mean, long-term goal right now for me, Boston, which isn't even that long. That's like a couple months. But like literally, I mean, that sounds so cheesy, but like, you know, I get a schedule from my coach like every Sunday, and I just work towards like the daily goal every day. And then, you know, I generally also have like a weekly goal in mind, which might be mileage. It might be 3 quality workouts, or it might just be like, if I can just have an awesome long run this week, I'm good.
That's great. Yeah. It's I think you need the long-term goals, but you need the simple goals, like just the daily goals, just something to shoot for that day.
And sometimes the daily goal is getting out of bed and like putting on the running shoes. Because I know once the running shoes are on, I'll get out the door. But
that's right. Yeah. It's that first step. You give yourself 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. 10
or 15 minutes. And if you after those 10 or 15 minutes, if you really feel still terrible, maybe shut it down. But you need to get those first 10 or 15 minutes in. Yeah. I met a guy named Jeff Smith who won the Boston Marathon in 84 and 85, I think.
Amazing.
He famously, and he's very proud of this, was the last Boston Marathon winner to not get paid. Oh, he's very proud of this fact.
I was like, was he interviewed in that Boston documentary? Have you seen that?
I haven't. It might have been. He's always at the gala every year. He's a great guy. He's from the UK. I don't know if that is the same guy.
I think he's featured in the documentary.
That would make sense. He was a great guy. I ran a marathon once and met him after the race, and had been talking to him for a solid, I don't know, an hour and a half. Just a fascinating dude. I had just qualified for Boston for the first time. I was real proud of myself.
Right, just kind of
bragging, I ran this marathon. I was all excited, qualified for Boston after about an hour and a half. Not him just listening to me talk about how awesome I am. Right, he's like, I won the Boston Marathon twice.
That's amazing. That's such a good story.
So I've had a few very humbling moments like that. I'm like, all right. I ran a 3:09 in San Diego. But he actually told me, once I realized it's about him, he ended up going on for a few more hours, and we were just throwing back Coors Light after Coors Light after Coors Light.
Oh my God, amazing.
Listening to him talk about all of his running stories from back in the day. And he, incidentally, is another guy I'm going to get on this podcast, come hell or high water.
So
I haven't talked to him about it yet. He doesn't know this, but he will. He's a very nice guy. I talk to him periodically now still. Very good friend. But he told me once, I asked him, especially as I was kind of getting around, I was a Boston Marathon qualifier, but I hadn't broken 3 hours yet. And I was wondering what, I wonder then and still wonder today, the relationship between pain and your performance and your effort and how it all kind of boils down. Like you said in your 2:38 marathon, it was the first time you felt like you raced a marathon. Jeff Smith told me something that I always kind of thought about was that pain, as you get faster, the pain you're able to endure becomes greater. And so the races actually get
that's interesting.
harder.
Yeah.
That was his opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know if I agree necessarily, because I do think in some capacity, yes, because when you're like really racing, like the effort is always harder in a sense. However, I've had so many terrible marathon experiences where it's literally just like, full body meltdown. Like I don't know how to describe like how awful that is.
Like physically or mentally?
Physically.
Okay.
Physically. I mean, obviously
was that
the psychological
sure
thing plays a role once you're like feeling terrible, but
was that from a lack of fitness? Was that you taking a risk and trying to go out harder than perhaps you should have?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there were some stupid races and some stupid decisions made on my part in a lot of cases. And then I think, I don't know, there were a few races where, like I was saying in 2014 in Chicago, when I stopped at like 19, I was cramping so badly, I was afraid I was going to have to drop out of the race. And I don't really know, I don't really know what to attribute the cramping to. I actually had cramping in Berlin too, but probably the least significant of any marathon. So yeah, I think there are so many things that can happen in a marathon that it's like, it's really wild to spend such a long time training for one race and then literally know that the temperature could be 10 degrees off and your 80, race
80 degrees
is,
at the Olympic Trials.
Yeah. Or even Boston last year. I don't know. I think it was around 70 degrees, but that had a significant impact
that's warm.
on and some people are better in warm conditions, some are better in cold. Like I happen to be a princess and I'm like, I need it to be 40 degrees. And like,
I'm a princess also.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had another, the guy is a local Bay Ridge guy. He used to always say and it's a long race. A lot of things can happen,
right,
and almost all of them are bad.
Right. Exactly. That's a good point.
Which a good point. I think kind of spells out just not only is the race itself is just this thing to overcome.
Right.
It's such a long distance to be able to run at all.
Yeah.
To say nothing of clipping off, 555 miles.
What is? I think 230.
I might be right on 6, right?
It's right around 6. Yeah.
6 minute miles for 26.2.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, so on top of the race itself just being this enormous challenge, then just comes the training. And I always say that the stepping to the starting line is, with the race itself, as challenging as it is, I don't think is as hard as the preparation for the race.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think, every time you get on the line, you're just like, wow, I've just been thinking about this one thing ultimately for like the last 3 months or longer in some cases. I usually do a 12-week build-up, sometimes slightly shorter. But yeah, I mean, God, the training. I don't know. I think I really enjoy the training. Like I was saying, like, I think if you're like beginning a marathon cycle and you're not psyched like about the everyday, which, you know, in January and February in New York can be a little bit daunting with, you know, gnarly weather.
Preparing for
and
Boston is tough.
yeah. But I don't know.
As you're saying
weird.
this, I'm hearing the wind
blow
against
exactly,
the windows
exactly.
in the office we're in right now.
Yeah. I think, I do think that there is some sick, twisted aspect of me that's like, oh, I really enjoy the training. And I think that that's like been a huge part of the ultimate success, is that it's like, if you don't enjoy the like process, it's going to be a lot harder to achieve.
Exactly right. Have you ever read Once a Runner?
I haven't. I'm like,
I'm my mind.
I'm the runner that's like read no book. I used to be a super nerd when I was younger. Like, you know, read like every, like I would wait for the Runner's World to come and like, you know, nerd out on results and stuff. But yeah, no, I haven't really. I'm like, I'm terrible. I like always buy my dad running books because he's really into it. He can't do it anymore, but he likes to like, you know.
Well, read the book.
Yeah, I will. It's like been in my Amazon cart. I'm like, I should get around to this at this point.
For those of you out there that don't know what we're talking about, Once a Runner by John L. Parker. It's not a book I actually even recommend to everyone because it could be a little bit intimidating because they talk about 140-mile weeks, you know.
Oh, wait. Okay, so this is, I actually did buy this for my dad for Christmas and he really enjoyed it.
It's a great, yeah. I've read this book, not including the times I've listened to the book.
Really?
I probably read the book 6 or 7 times.
All right.
For me, it's like a big motivation. Whenever my motivation is starting to wane, that's the book I kind of pick up to kind of get myself back in the
just
mood.
Read a chapter.
Yeah, or just a long car ride.
Totally.
It's funny because there's like this, there's several themes throughout the book, and there are certain chapters I just skip.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the running aspect of it. I was like, I know what happens. I don't really need to read that part. All right.
It's on my list.
It's on your list. There we go. Next time we talk, you and I are going to have a conversation about John L. Parker, because there's any number of quotes that I love to bring up during this interview.
Amazing.
But Caitlin, I think we're going to leave it there. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
100% were the person I wanted to talk to today, even though you didn't think you were going to be.
Good to hear.
So you, thank you very much again for joining us. 2:38 marathon, once again, is just a mind-blowing number. That is mind-blowing.
Thank you so much.
So good for you. We're looking forward. What's your next race?
Boston.
Oh, Boston. What's your 2018?
Maybe Lisbon half and then Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lisbon.
Yeah.
Takes you around the world. So you're running, you get to see some places.
Yeah, you do.
What about fall?
Maybe Berlin again. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think that far.
All right. Top American in Berlin in 2018. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here. All right. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Do you have any Caitlin Phillips sort of blogs or anything you want to promote right now? Any sponsors you want to talk about?
No sponsors. If someone wants to sponsor me.
Listen, to all the sponsors out there, we have a fantastic runner, a really great human, just a very, very humble runner here.
Who's selling me now.
Who needs some sponsorship money. Somebody has to send her to Lisbon in a couple weeks, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, if you think of anything, we'll be sure to put those in the show notes. This is Caitlin Phillips. I know if you Google her, you'll find all kinds of articles about her. We're going to find something for her to promote. Next time she has some sponsors she wants to talk about, we'll be sure to include those too, because I'm sure those are coming. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.